Saudi desert reveals ancient artwork. Mystery of 12,000-year-old rock carvings in Saudi desert reveals ancient human presence. Archaeologists have uncovered a stunning set of life-size rock carvings in the Saudi Arabian desert dating back nearly 12,000 years, reshaping our understanding of early human life in the region. Now let's uncover the details of this story on the AI podcast.
Hey, we're jumping into something pretty spectacular, a major archaeological find out in Saudi Arabia. And look, this isn't just another interesting discovery. The sources we're looking at are really pushing us to rethink the whole story of human history in the Middle East.
That's exactly right. We're talking about these incredible ancient rock carvings, petroglyphs. And they don't just show people were there, they suggest they were there almost 12,000 years ago, which flies in the face of what many experts thought about this region being, well, pretty much empty back then. It's a big shift.
Yeah, and the thing that grabs you immediately, just visually, is the scale. You know, you hear rock art, maybe you picture little stick figures or handprints. But these are massive, huge. Some are over 1.8 meters tall. That's life-size, carved right into the rock face.
Truly monumental work.
Okay, so let's get into the what. What are these carvings actually of? Our sources mention camels, gazelles, animals you might expect, maybe. But then there's this other creature that pops up and raises a big question, the auroch.
Yes, the auroch, the giant ancestor of modern cattle, now extinct. And that's the puzzle, isn't it? Because aurochs weren't exactly desert dwellers, especially not in that specific, very arid spot 12,000 years ago.
Right. So how did they know them? And well enough to carve them life-size? Did they just hear stories?
Well, that's where the theory of seasonal migration comes in. The idea is that these communities, who are clearly experts at desert survival, likely traveled. They probably followed seasonal patterns, maybe towards greener, wetter areas where they would have encountered animals, like aurochs. Then they returned to their desert home base and carved these powerful images, perhaps as a memory or, something culturally significant.
Okay, but hang on. Migration seems like a lot of effort just to see some big cows, doesn't it? Couldn't they have just traded information, maybe seen drawings from other groups? That feels simpler.
It's a fair point, but the level of detail argues against that, I think. These carvings show incredible anatomical accuracy. Dr. Maria Guagnin, who worked on this, really emphasized this. She pointed out that etching that much detail with just wedge-shaped rocks, mind you.
Just rocks, wow.
Yeah, just rocks. It suggests a deep familiarity, probably direct observation. It implies these weren't just casual sketches based on hearsay. They feel more like important, maybe even sacred projects.
That precision is staggering. Just imagining the time, the effort,
Yeah.
chipping away at hard sandstone with another rock. But then the location adds this whole other layer of, strangeness. Some of these are carved onto really narrow cliff ledges.
Exactly. That's what some researchers call the cliff ledge mystery. When you look at where they are, you realize the artists physically couldn't step back. They couldn't get perspective on their own work while they were doing it.
What? So they're carving a 6-foot animal while perched on a tiny ledge. How? They must have had the whole image perfectly planned in their heads.
Precisely. It suggests an incredible command of form and memory. It tells you this wasn't just skilled labor. It was deliberate, planned, and probably carried immense cultural weight, maybe even ritualistic significance.
The act of creating it in that difficult spot might have been part of the point.
Absolutely. The location, the difficulty it likely added to the meaning.
Okay, so the artistry is undeniable. The skill is off the charts. But amazing art could be from various periods. The really huge claim here is that 12,000-year date. You mentioned rock art is hard to date. So how did they manage to pin down the age of these carvings with what the sources call unusual accuracy?
Yeah, that's the crucial scientific piece. Normally, you're right, it's tough. With paintings, you might hope for charcoal in the pigment, something organic you can carbon date. But engravings, it's just rock on rock, no organic material to test directly.
So what was the breakthrough? How did they get that date?
It was a combination of really careful excavation and, well, a bit of luck. They unearthed a rock pick tool, the kind you'd use for this type of engraving, buried in the sediment right below some of the carvings.
Whoa, okay. But just one tool. Relying on a single dropped tool for such a massive historical claim feels, a little shaky. Couldn't it have ended up there later, maybe washed in or dropped by someone else thousands of years after.
That's the kind of skepticism researchers have to address, absolutely. They didn't just date the tool itself, they used a technique called optically stimulated luminescence OSL dating. They dated the sediment layers around the tool. They confirmed the tool was found in a sealed, undisturbed layer directly associated with the period the carving would have occurred.
Okay, so the context was key. It wasn't just a random find.
Exactly. The secure context, combined with dating the surrounding sediment and the tool's position, allowed them to link it directly to the creation of the art with high confidence. That's what gives it that unusual accuracy.
Incredible. One tool, found in just the right place, basically unlocks this ancient timeline. And these findings getting published in a major journal like Nature Communications really underscores how significant this is scientifically.
Oh, definitely. The age itself is revolutionary for the region. Michael Harrower, an archaeologist quoted in the research, highlighted how little we actually know about art from this specific, really ancient period in the Middle East. So dating these isn't just about the art, it's about filling in a huge, roughly 2,000-year gap in our understanding of early human culture there.
Right. A gap we didn't even fully realize needed filling in that way. Okay, let's get to the so what of all this. We've got stunning ancient art precisely dated. What does this mean for how we understand human life back then? You said it pushes back evidence of people living there by almost 2,000 years. That's huge.
It really is. Think about it. The standard view was that this part of the Arabian Peninsula was just too harsh, too arid during that specific period. The climate model suggested it was extremely difficult, maybe impossible, to sustain permanent communities without reliable water. These carvings basically say, nope, people were here. And not just passing through, they were established.
So how did they do it? How on earth were people thriving in what we think of as such a brutal, water-scarce environment?
Deep environmental knowledge. That's the only explanation. They weren't relying on big rivers or permanent lakes that weren't there. They must have known how to find and exploit temporary water sources like seasonal playas, lakes that appear after infrequent rains, or perhaps hidden sources like deep rock fissures where rainwater collects and stays cool, protected from evaporation. They knew the landscape intimately.
Like a living map in their head.
Exactly. They weren't just surviving, they were adapted. Which brings us back to Dr. Grognan's point. These had to be fully established communities that knew the landscape really well.
Right. It wasn't just about finding water day to day.
No, it implies stability. To have the time, the resources, the social structure to dedicate to these huge, difficult art projects on cliff faces. That suggests a community that wasn't constantly on the brink of starvation or dehydration. They had mastered their environment to a remarkable degree.
In a way, their survival skills are almost more impressive than the art itself.
You could definitely argue that. The art is the visible evidence, but the underlying resilience and intelligence it represents are, well, staggering.
It really challenges our modern perspectives on arid lands, doesn't it? We see them as barriers, maybe, or places to exploit with technology. But these sources show a sophisticated culture that flourished there, on the environment's own terms.
Precisely. It's a powerful lesson in human adaptability. #tag outro.
All right, so let's quickly recap the main takeaways from diving into these sources. First, the sheer scale and artistic skill, life-size carvings, showing sophisticated observation dating back 12,000 years in Saudi Arabia. Pretty incredible.
Absolutely. Second, that crucial dating breakthrough. Finding that rock pick tool in context allowed for unusually precise dating, anchoring these communities in time.
And third, maybe the biggest impact. This proves established communities were thriving in this arid region nearly 2,000 years earlier than we thought. It rewrites the timeline of human survival there.
And what's really captivating, I think, is how these carvings offer this rare window, a glimpse into a world defined by both incredible creativity and profound resilience in a tough environment. It forces us to look again at our ancestors' capabilities, especially in places we might dismiss today.
Yeah, it really does. And maybe here's a final thought for you, the listener, to take away. Think about this. If these ancient people had the stability and worldview to carve memories of animals seen on distant migrations onto cliffs, what intricate, essential knowledge must they have possessed about their immediate surroundings, the hidden water sources, the plant cycles, the animal behaviors right there in the desert? That deep, localized knowledge we've likely lost must have been their most vital asset for thriving, where, perhaps, modern approaches might struggle. Food for thought.
Okay, one question for you. In what ways does this finding challenge previous assumptions about early human lives in the region? Don't forget to comment it. Thanks.